Okay, ready to go. Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Pagel, Program Manager of Greening Healthcare, and today's topic is next steps towards low-carbon central plants. We all know by now, I think, that the goal at some point in the future is to reach net zero emissions for our buildings. That could be by 2050, 2040, or another year, depending on various commitments and who's making those commitments. Since most new central plant equipment will last longer than 28 years, we need to start considering the low carbon options immediately when looking at plant replacements. So this webinar will review these options as well as how to run your existing plant more efficiently if it's not ready to be replaced yet until that time comes. So these are the next steps towards the low carbon plants. You can use Q&A button with any questions for us, and I'll answer those or put them to the panel. And webinar recordings will be posted to our site later this week. We're pleased to continue to partner with CHES this year. And thanks to our program sponsors for their support once again, Enbridge Gas and Save on Energy delivered by the IASO. And to our industry members, Smith & Anderson and Thermogenic Spoilers. We look forward to working with them this year and the experience and expertise that they can bring to our program. Greening Healthcare is run under the nonprofit organization of the Climate Challenge Network. And we'll go to the agenda now. We'll start off with the welcome and background. We have kind of snapshots of the various statements and commitments that have been made by government organizations, associations, healthcare leaders. So we'll start with those to understand the importance of why we're talking about this. And then we'll introduce our panel, which is called the Low Carbon Guidance Team. And we'll look at getting the most out of your existing central plant first, and then follow on with the transition to the low carbon plants. And finally, we'll run through our research projects and what's in store for Greening Healthcare for the rest of the year. We have quite a few now, and if you're wondering why we're always asking you to join us in these research projects, is because we need hospitals to participate to make data and results happen. So with that, I'll pass it over to Ian Jarvis, the Executive Director of Climate Challenge Network. And Ian, you're on mute. You're still on mute, Ian.
Thank you, Michael. And somebody has to do it every time, and so this time it's going to be me. Welcome, everybody. Good morning to those who are Manitoba and West, and good afternoon to everybody else. And I guess good evening to a few people who are on the call from the UK. Happy to have you here, and we see this as one of the important pieces of the low carbon future puzzle that we're looking to piece together with your help. We begin all of Climate Challenge Network meetings with a land acknowledgement, and we do acknowledge respectfully the ancestral and unceded territory of the Inuit, the Métis, and the First Nations people that share these lands with us. I'm speaking today from the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Mississaugas of the Credit River, and we truly hope that the work that we're doing here with you will honor this heritage and help advance our common cause. We all have a great interest in the environment, and we share that with all peoples within the jurisdictions where we operate. So with that in place, let's talk a little bit about new members. So Greening Healthcare thrives on its membership. It's a classic network effect, just like Facebook and others. Every organization that joins Greening Healthcare brings new insights, new data, new perspectives, which always enrich the whole, and at the same time gets the benefit of everything that's gone before over the almost 20 years that Greening Healthcare has been in operation right now. The tools, the templates, the recordings, the data, the evidence, the facilities, so on. So we're delighted to welcome new member hospitals into the overall Greening Healthcare movement. We have a couple of them talking as part of this process today, and welcome to them. And Again, growth for us is everything. We've got it's a global issue that we're dealing with around the greenhouse gas emissions associated with healthcare facilities. And frankly, we need all the help we can get. As Michael suggested, let's talk a bit about the why. So we're going to get in some depth into the what needs to be done and how it can be done with the panel discussion later. But in case anybody's not convinced that Houston, we have a problem, let's talk a bit about the economics and the environmental issues that are driving this, the why we need to address this, why it's not going to go away, and why it's becoming part of the day-to-day mandates, part of the day-to-day activities of every one of us, no matter which part of the healthcare sector we connect with. And we've had more than a few, for me, very compelling reminders from folks who've been part of greening healthcare in the past. Dr. Penny Ballum, who is, in our view, a heavyweight in this space. She chairs the board at Vancouver Coastal Health. She's also been heading the vaccination rollout for the province of British Columbia. You would have seen her on the news with Premier Hogan from time to time. Dr. Ballum captured the words really well. This is urgent. We are running out of time. I think Michael was good to say, if we subtract from the kind of 2030, 2040, 2050 targets we're hearing, the capital span of decisions we're making today, in other words, the life cycle of the infrastructure decisions we're putting in place, we are totally running out of time, and it's very clear there. And the more time it takes, the more damage will be done, and the substantially more it's going to cost, and that's going to impact every one of us. Bob Collins from Humber River Hospital at our annual forum at the end of the year talked about the pragmatic side of this, that we cannot be wasting utility dollars at the expense of healthcare. And the province of Ontario, since 2018, has had in place the Made in Ontario Environment Plan, with very specific emissions reductions targets. And I think it's clear to everybody in Ontario, we're not meeting those targets right now, and we should expect figuratively and literally the heat to go up on dealing with these issues. The government of Canada has committed legally by legislation to net zero greenhouse gas emissions. The National Health Service in England has done exactly the same thing. And I think many of you are aware of the fact that the 40 hospitals that NHS has under development right now by legislation have to be net zero, and there's a lot of work, and we're spending time with our counterparts in England talking about what does that look like? What does a net zero hospital look like, which has to meet those numbers based on legislation. It's a condition of them being built. And we spend a lot of time on our sister program, the Mayor's Megawatt Challenge, talking to municipalities. So at the municipal level, these commitments are being made with varying degrees of percentages, all the way down to net zero with different, slightly different timelines, but all with exactly the same message that the communities where we live and work are expecting great things. So we spent a lot of time with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities responding to those goals. Those who've been with us for a while will be familiar with New York City and its succession of legislation that is like upping the ante and both the carrots and the sticks associated with serious emissions reductions in within the city, beginning with local law 84 way back when with benchmarking. We now have, as you know, a similar thing in Ontario, and other jurisdictions across North America are getting into the requirement to publicly report data. More and more communities are stepping into audits, retro-commissioning, the kind of activities required. But within New York, we're tracking local law 97, which is highlighted here, emissions caps. So greenhouse gas emissions caps and fines on exceeding those greenhouse gas emissions in any given year, as being, again, signs of the times that the pressure is mounting that the cost of pollution, if you like, the cost of carbon is going to keep rising. And we'll talk in a moment. We believe that the incentives and the rewards and the carrots for achieving good levels will come through. If you've been following New York's activity, we like the chart on the right-hand side there, that this relates to Local Law 97 and the fact that the first caps, the first targets that will be set for emissions are based on the right-hand side of that. Those are the high emitters are the folks that are going to get hit first, and then over time they become progressively more aggressive as people hopefully fall into line. And you may recall Mike Rohan from Northwell Health, the biggest healthcare provider in New York, talking about they've done the math to say that based on their current performance level, that those fines are going to cost them $10 million over a period of time. This is real money, and they're seriously paying attention to stepping in the right direction. The building labeling came out of Local Law 95, where we're going to publicly show everybody whether we're good guys or bad guys in the greenhouse gas emissions stakes. So this is coming. It's legislated. It's serious. We aren't going to escape from it, and we need to get ahead of the curve. Is the key. We're seeing increasingly that there are carrots as well as the sticks attached to this. So we're working with the Canada Infrastructure Bank. We've had them on a panel last year to talk about the work that they're doing. But there is public money available, sometimes in grants, sometimes in low interest loans. But there is money coming out of primarily the federal level at this point in time. And a lot of that is through the carbon taxes that are being collected, but is flowing in to ease the way into the future. So we can expect to see financial economic supports to go with legislated mandates, all of which are looking to move us in the right direction. If I could suggest one of those that's getting everybody's attention, here is a bit of a snapshot on what we can expect in terms of gas prices. And and this is natural gas prices, not gasoline. We're not working in this space right now, but to run through this, not only is carbon tax mounting, the orange part of this is the carbon tax mounting over time. So back in 2020, there was the low level, and as you know, it increments in Canada up every year up to the 2030 level. Our belief is that 2030 level, they will just keep on going because the government's got a finite number of tools in its toolbox, and the economic lever is the one that's most readily kind of working. So we can expect that growth to continue over time. What we hadn't expected was what's happened, the tragedy that's unfolding in Ukraine and the interruptions on supply. So the commodity prices jumped. We were predicting a steady decline in the commodity prices as demand for gas got less and less. But guess what? It's not getting less and less. In Ontario, we're switching, the current plan is to switch to gas-fired generation to replace the capacity of the nuclear facilities that are either being decommissioned or refurbished. And there's a big number in the current gas supply that's liquefied natural gas that's heading off to other parts of the world. So where natural gas, in my memory, was constrained by pipelines, now it's going in big tankers and it's going every which way, and that's putting upward pressure on pricing. And it's unpredictable where that will go. But the likelihood that the gas prices we were paying in 2020 will be more than doubled by 2030 is real. And I'm pretty darn sure that the government and operators are not going to be putting out a lot of additional funding to pay for that increase in gas pricing. And our response has to be efficiency, like the cost of wasting energy. And just about every hospital that we've seen across North America and in the UK is wasting substantial amount of energy. The cost of doing so is going up. Michael looked at the median hospital natural gas consumption. So the little row down here, the median for 100,000 square foot hospital, a little tiny one, was around $102,000 in 2020. If you're a 1 million square foot hospital, which many of you are, you can multiply that number by 10. By the time you get to 2030, that will be 260,000, and you can multiply that number by 10 if you're a bigger hospital. So there is absolutely an economic driver within this, which is related to carbon, which is related to gas usage, and where we can expect a degree of volatility still in utility prices. So Michael will be watching the Q&A, and if you have any questions that kind of relate to any of this, but I'd suggest you save a lot of your ammunition for the panel that's coming up, because we have a lot of different insights and perspectives on how this is unfolding. But the cost of gas is going up, and it's going to be a big play in here. As a sort of a segue into the conversation today and what does the low carbon central plant look like, a lot of it has to do with financial modeling, and we spent a lot of our time playing with this. So given 2022 current pricing, this is about how the kinds of alternatives that we're going to be talking about under the low carbon plant mantra, this is how some of these play. If you've got electric resistance heating where you're paying normal rates around 15 cents a kilowatt hour in Ontario, different in other jurisdictions of the people on this call, but around there you can see what that number is for 1 unit of delivered heat. But demand response is going to become a big deal. The shape of the load pattern on the electric grids everywhere is going to be so distorted that demand response is going to become a major play. So the ability to take power when it's available at low price and avoid it at high price will be a central part of our central plant strategy. So electric resistance heat is already fairly competitive when it's off demand, when it's off peak under a Class A contract in Ontario. It's already competitive with natural gas. And we've already shown that gas at 75% efficiency and at 95% efficiency, those numbers are going to more than double over time. So we're heading to an era where off-demand electricity is significantly less expensive than natural gas. But when you throw the heat recovery chiller in, and we're going to have a lot of conversation about that later in this webinar today, where we're taking all the heat that right now our hospitals are throwing out into the atmosphere or returning to as chilled water in a distribution system right through the winter, right through the heating system. When we throw that beast in it, even if we're running the heat recovery chiller on demand, it's already less expensive than natural gas, and again that differential is going to grow substantially. And if we're able to take the heat recovery chiller and only operate it during off-peak demand periods, most of which occur in the summer, so this is not very difficult to do, it's already our least cost option. So the age of electrification is coming. The forecasting of what's going to happen to gas and electricity prices is critical, and our ability to respond to being able to take clean electricity when it's available at the least cost is a very big deal. And later I'm going to ask Paul Ingham to talk a bit about the electric boiler at Mohawk College, where they've just got a behemoth big electric boiler that they run whenever the electricity is cheap, and good for them, smart move. So this is the context, this is the backdrop to what Greening Healthcare is trying to do to help thousands of hospitals across North America have the tools and the resources and the planning and the insight they need to be able to go step by step towards the low carbon future at least cost in the most sensible manner with the resources that become available. It's going to be a dynamic, flexible time. Exciting if you get excited by those kind of things, but again, there's no escape. This is not going away anytime soon. We're stuck with it.